He's one of the docents, main docents at the Bing Crosby Museum. And more than that, I don't know what to say about you.
Well, I'm sure I'll find something to say. Never had any problem with that. Okay. So thank you, Dave.
So here's Dave Reynolds.
I'm also going to add, I'm going to be as brief as I can be, because I'm also introducing Lauren Harris, who is with our Bing Crosby Advocates, and she has written a book on Bing Crosby. And so I want her to tell us about her research in her book, and see if she can sell some books here. So I'm just the entree. So I'm just the salad before you get to the meat. Anyway. So what I'm going to take you on a little bit of a detour from what we had originally planned. I had planned to do a whole thing on the Bing Crosby that most people don't know about the man behind all of the success. What did this guy, who at one time was considered the wealthiest man in Hollywood, aside from I think an MGM executive? What did he do with it? What did he do with his fame, his fortune, his power, and so forth? But as I did that, my presentation was getting longer and longer and longer. And so rather than cut that down, I thought this actually was a wonderful opportunity for me to talk about the Bing Crosby Advocates and what we have going on next month. So I'm kind of stealing your attention to go in that direction a little bit. So that's what I'm going to be doing. By the way, I met a fella, I have to step back. I worked on a book, Spokane history, called A View of the Falls, an illustrated history of Spokane, with Bill Stimpson back in 1983 and 84. And I was at a Westerners meeting in 2009, and I thought, well, Bill's coming, so I'll have to come and make sure I'm at that meeting. And Bill talked about what his group, at that time, the Advocates for the Bing Crosby Theater, what they were doing. And they had just worked with the Crosby family and Mr. Silver, Mitch Silver, at that time the Metropolitan Theater downtown, on getting that theater renamed the Bing Crosby Theater. And so I started coming to their board meetings, and I really, really liked the people, and that got me involved. And now it's one of those things where I'm sure some of the board members with Westerners could relate, is that once you're in, it's like the mall. You can't get it. So, and so my reward for that was getting elected 3 years ago to be the president of the board and try to fill Bill Stimpson's shoes. And those are huge shoes to fill. So we were looking at there were a number of different stories and so forth, but we started realizing that 2025 was a 100th anniversary when Bing left Spokane for California, for Hollywood, or Los Angeles, as he always said. So I'm going to talk about what that sparked and what we have going on next month, because we have tons of stuff that I'm sure a lot of you would be interested in. My presentation starts with this picture that I got from Stephanie Plowman. That was very likely taken over in Tacoma. Bing didn't come to Spokane until he was 3 years old. He was born in Tacoma, and I just think that's the most adorable picture ever. So with his baseball bat, and that was kind of the beginning. For Bing, baseball was huge. I could do 3 presentations on Bing and baseball. So that's the extent of what I'll do here. So we're going to be celebrating his 100 years and essentially his career launch from Spokane. I mentioned the Bing Crosby Theater in 1924 and 25, particularly the last several weeks before mid-October. Bing and his friend Al Rinker, who was a graduate of North Central High School, they performed on the stage what at that time was called the Clemmer Theater, and it's now the Bing Crosby Theater, one of the few of those original movie palaces of the 1920s, or 1900s and 1920s. So that's what we're celebrating, his career launch. So just to kind of go through real quick, and this is going to be, I'm going to be talking real fast. So our whole mission is to celebrate his life and legacy and showcase his connections to Spokane. And we do that in a number of different ways. We were established in 2006, and we're all about educating the community. One thing that we've been doing since the Bing Crosby House Museum opened on the Bing Crosby, or on the Gonzaga campus, if you haven't been there, you owe it to yourself to go. Was it 2014? 2014 when all of the material that had been, not all of it, but a lot of the material that had been in the Crosby Library at Gonzaga was moved over to the house, and it turned into a museum. We provide our docents, we're there every Saturday from 1 till 4, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which, by the way, we need to make sure that that goes into onto the sheet for everybody at the beginning. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 until 4, we have students there, and occasionally some of our docents as well. A number of different areas where, like Dick said, he changed the world. He performed on 4,000 radio programs. Between 1931 to 62, he was on the radio at least once a week. And after that time, not so much, but he went on, he reached 50 million radio listeners, which was about 38% of the audience, of the country's population. Give just a little bit of an idea. As far as records, he was the most recorded performer in history, and he had 38 #1 hits. It says here more than Beatles and Elvis. When young people come in, we ask them, so are any of you, what's the? Swifties. Taylor Swift. How many has she had #1 hits? And nobody knows. She just last year dropped her 12. So she's got a ways to go to catch up with Bing. He was on the charts, the top 100s, more than almost 400 times there. More than Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley. And his version of White Christmas, which he had to record twice, his first one, the original, the master, got worn out. It's the best-selling recording of all time. That's according to Guinness Book of World Records. Number 2 is the record, is the record that Elton John did of Candle in the Wind for Princess Diana. That's number 2. Number 3 is Bing's version of Silent Night, which, by the way, he made no money on. He gave all of the proceeds to an orphanage in China, a girls' orphanage. And we have, at the Crosby House Museum, we have 21 or 22 of his Decca gold records, which equals 500,000 in sales. Which it really gets more interesting when you tell kids that, oh, by the way, it's a disc. Record is a disc, and in those days you had to go to a record store and you had to buy it. And you had to carefully bring it home, and you had to have a record player. And you had to put it on there and play it, and put a stylus on it and listen to it at home. A little bit different than downloading or streaming or any of that. In the movie business, he was in 104 movies that we know of. He got the 1944 Best Actor for Going My Way, but he was nominated for 2 other movies. 15 times he was on the annual list of the top 10 highest grossing movies, or movie stars, and he topped that list. He was #1 5 different times. This guy was huge, more than most of us even realize. #7 on the Motion Picture Almanac list of the highest grossing movie stars of all time. And it's estimated that his films have generated more than 1 billion tickets. Not 1 billion in money, but as far as tickets sold. And that is pretty much, most of that is, of course, before we had VHS, DVDs, and streaming. There were 4 songs that got Academy Awards. Then he went on to television. Did a whole lot of TV programs, including his Christmas specials, and that's how I met Bing Crosby, was his Christmas specials. I was really, really grossed out when I saw him singing with David Bowie on a Christmas special. I just thought that was so creepy. But Ziggy Stardust would be. His Bing Crosby Productions created Hogan's Heroes and Ben Casey, and also did several movies. He got the first Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1962, and the guy was only 57 to get a Lifetime Achievement Award. Peabody Award for TV Industry, and also the Ford Edsel Show, which raised $250,000 for Gonzaga's Crosby Library. I'm going to get back to that a little bit later. And a lot of people don't realize that he had played a crucial role in technology, recording technology, particularly in magnetic tape. And he really transformed the use of reel-to-reel tape recording. The story is, and I've seen this several different times, is that he found out when he was doing a radio show, and he had to do 2 of them a day when he did it. He did one for one coast and then had to repeat the whole thing for the other coast. And Bing really didn't like to do that because he wanted to be out on the golf course. And so he found out that there was this technology in Germany during the war where you could record on tape and then play it back later on. And so somehow or another that technology got liberated, I think is the term, from Germany. It came to the U.S. He invested a lot of money into making that happen. And then he went to his the network and said, I want to do this. I want to record one time. I want to do it, perform one time, record it, so we can play it back later. And the network said, you can't do that. The technology is so poor that people will know it's not live. And so he actually ended his contract with that network. Went to another network, talked to them, and they said, are you kidding? This is a great idea. We don't have to bring in an orchestra. We don't have to bring in all the technicians and get the studio over and over again. So that was essentially the beginning of tape recording to play back later. And one of the advantages of that was that they were able to edit. You can't edit on a disc, on records. So that gave them that kind of flexibility. And also, this was basically the beginning of syndication, because you could record it on a tape and then mail it out to all these different places. One thing that was, just brief thing is, when they made the first, his company made the first reel-to-reel tape recorder, he had to make a second one, and he gave that second one to Les Paul, the guitarist and producer, and said, here, do what you can with it. And Les Paul figured out how to take that and come up with 2 tracks. And from there they were able to come up with 4 tracks and so forth. So that was the beginning of multi-track recording. So there was a lot more that, again, a lot of people didn't know. I could spend the whole time just talking about making baseball. He had a lot of other sports that he was involved with during his lifetime. Probably the biggest one that people know about is the clam bake that started actually in the early 30s Gleason, him having a tournament as well. So he was part owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I found out that he also was, for a short time, a part owner of the Detroit Tigers. And he literally raised millions of dollars for Spokane area sports, including one time he brought his sons up here and they did a benefit game, I think it was softball, to benefit the what became WWII, Spokane Athletics. And speaking of donating, there's all sorts. He gave away more than 30% of his income to charities or to people that were in need. And when I say $8 million for Gonzaga, that's just what I was able to compile really quickly from public records. Who knows how many times he wrote a check and had sent to Gonzaga for one thing or another. And he spent the whole time during World War II entertaining the troops or raising money for the war effort through war bonds. Hank Magazine said he was the person who did the most for the morale of overseas servicemen. And that actually came from the GIs themselves. When kids come in, we talk, what's an influencer? Well, Bing Crosby was one of the earliest, and everybody who had something they wanted to sell, whether it was, we have it in the museum, coffee maker. It's like a Mr. Coffee coffee maker, but it's Bing Crosby coffee maker. Bing Crosby ice cream. And his whole Minute Maid orange juice and so forth. So there's a whole other area we haven't really explored. I know a lot of you know this already, but he moved to Spokane when he was 3. He grew up in the Logan neighborhood. When his family moved over here, they lived in a house over on Cinto, about 2 blocks from where the Bing Crosby House Museum is now. And then they moved over there in 1911 when that house was built. With Webster Elementary, which is no longer there, Gonzaga High School and Gonzaga University. And no, he did not graduate from Gonzaga University. He did get an honorary, did he get 1 or 2 honorary degrees? An honorary degree years later. But he managed to get through 2 full years of a 4-year law program. There are lots of places downtown where we have a footprint in the jazz at that time, which was brand new. And we often get asked, did he ever come back to Spokane? Well, he came back to Spokane, from what I can tell, again, from just public records, an average of once every 3 years. And a lot of times we were pretty big deals. Okay. So, what are we doing about this? We are celebrating the 100th anniversary of his professional career launch. This summer we had a Sunday series called Sundays at the Crosbys. There were 8 different presenters from, again, Bill Stimson, Steve Blewett, retired professor from WWII. Tom MacArthur came and talked about and brought us a Victrola and played it in the living room where Bing's dad had played an Edison talking machine, which kind of sent chills down his spine. That was wonderful. And then Ted McGregor, just this last Sunday, came and talked about Bing's connection to Spokane and things we could do about that. I will mention that even though this series is done, I'm talking with people here at Cinto Senior Activity Center about reprising that series here, starting in probably January. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. Handed out a sheet it's kind of brown, yes, Celebrate with Bing Crosby. So that has a lot of the different things going on. It's not until you get to look at all this, you're going, oh my goodness, no wonder we're all exhausted. So October 10th, at I believe 9:30, we're going to unveil an historic marker at the outside the entrance of the Simons Block. The Simons Block was where radio got off the ground in Spokane. It's where the first radio station in Spokane was. And it was on the second floor there. But this is, you're all getting a sneak preview of what we'll be unveiling there. It says Simons Block Broadcast Pioneers. The Simons Block, built in 1917-18, was home to Spokane's first radio station, KDFC, which began broadcasting in 1923 from the Golden Concert Studios on the second floor. Bing Crosby made his broadcast debut here before moving to Hollywood in 1925. In the early 50s, he partnered with the station then called KXLY to launch a television station on the city's north side. And that's by Bing Crosby Advocates, and we have October 2025. So we have other ones, but this is the first of several we're looking at doing, including in front of the Bing Crosby Theater, Whitehead's Dance Palace. Any of you heard of that or know where that was? No. Okay. Actually, the building is still there. It's a few doors west of where the comedy club is on Spokane, or on Sprague Avenue. Yeah, it's a parking garage, yeah. At this point. It's actually owned by STCU, so. There was Stubach's Confectionery, a candy store on Sprague and one of the corners where Dominique Sandwiches was downtown. It was kind of a speakeasy, but Bing and his buddies would practice in the basement. He also stole candy from there when he was a kid. He was kind of nervous about being there. Bailey's Music Store on Riverside, which is next door to where the Riddler Piano Bar is, just a couple of doors down from the police station. Down there. The Casino Theater, Granada, near the Riverside, which is across the street. That's where Bing and his bandmates in the musical Acres performed on the stage there. Auditorium Theater, which is where River Park Square is now. And Bing saw Al Jolson for the first time, and that was a big career. That was a big career boost right there. Loretta's Dance Pavilion is out in the valley, just about where Costco is, out in the valley. Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's, that area. And we might approach Downriver Golf Course about putting something out there too, because when he was a teenager and needed to make money so he could do the kinds of things he wanted to do, one of the first jobs he got was at the brand new Downriver Golf Course, carrying around bags of golf clubs for about, what equivalent now of about $11.50 an hour. Last year in March, there was a Best of the Inland Northwest Readers poll, and I don't know if you can see it here, but it said one of their categories was Best Local Person Who Needs a Street Named After Them, Bing Crosby. And the answers that somebody gave, a couple of people gave, was, he was the most well-known, and it just kind of flows. Someone else said maybe if the city named the street after him, the streets might get plowed promptly like Christmas. And so we saw that and said, you know what, that's a great idea. So, on October 10th, downtown, Mayor Brown is going to read a proclamation proclaiming that as Bing's Day, and then she's going to unveil signage for the new honorary Bing Crosby Way downtown. Yes. Thanks in part to Sue, she got me connected with the right people downtown. And so that's going to be, we see it as a start. It's going to be on West Sprague from Lincoln, so you got Lincoln, then Monroe, and then Madison. So it actually does include the Bing Crosby Theater, the Fox Theater, the Knitting Factory, and so forth. It butts right up against the Davenport. So we're very excited about that. It's going to be a big public meeting. Then the next next day, Lauren is going to be doing a book launch for her book, Bing Crosby himself, which we're going to be talking more about that. Gonzaga University has taken this on, and they're putting together an hour-long show. The best I've been able to figure out is it's essentially like a vaudeville show. It's a variety show, but the theme is essentially it's looking at Bing's life, breaking it up into 4 sections. And so they'll be talking about his time in Spokane, about his radio and recording career, his film and movie career, and so forth. So that's going to be at the old, I always remember it as the Russell Theater on Gonzaga campus, Magnuson Theater now. And that's an hour-long program, and it's students doing the whole thing. The dance department, the music department, and so forth. And then when that's over, we're going to have a reenactment of Bing and Al loading up the drums and a bag of golf clubs into the back of their 1916 Model T Ford and heading to Los Angeles via the Sunset Highway. And yes, we do have a 1916 Model T Ford to do that. Pretty exciting. One of the things you'll see on the back of that sheet is that on the 25th of October, we're having a show called Bing Spokane Has Jazz. It's like the song that he and Louis Armstrong sang together. It's Now You Have Jazz. We include Spokane's Masterclass Big Band, Zombie Jazz Band, and they'll be backing up Bill Crosby Jr., who is Bing's grandson. He's been here once before, and we're really excited to invite him back. On the 31st, this is going to be fun too. We're going to be running High Society, and now they've remastered it in high definition, the 4K, and they're going to be running that at the Fox Theater. This will be probably the only chance you'll have to see it in that quality on the big screen like it was originally intended. So it's a dress-up event. We're encouraging people to get their tuxes and to dress up for that. Red carpet, photo booth. Anything else you want to add, Lisa, that you guys are planning on for that show? Oh, that's right. You get to hold a little ostrich if you're taking stuff to read.
We have some giveaways and best costume awards, stuff like that.
And you can have lots of contests and a lot of fun. And how much are the tickets?
And the tickets are $10 flat.
$10 flat, no fees.
That includes they get your ticket purchase automatically gets you into the drawing for some giveaways.
Okay.
And that includes the photo booth, and you get a little souvenir, so.
Lots of giveaways and contests and so forth. So anyway, that's going to be fun. $10 flat. And then every year we do Bing Crosby Holiday Festival, which we start out with White Christmas, and then we're going to be showing the Edsel show from 1957. I mentioned that earlier. So the Edsel show was the first CBS television entertainment show recorded recorded at one time to be played back later. And they preempted the Ed Sullivan show that night. Bing organized that, set Gonzaga as the producers so they could receive all of the proceeds from that. He got his friends, Rosemary Clooney, Frank Sinatra, Louis Armstrong, and he had others as well to come, and they gave their time and all of the advertising for that, all of the advertising money went to Gonzaga to build the Bing Crosby Library. That has not been shown publicly since then, so we're going to show it on that at that festival. It didn't do Ed so much good. And also, the North Central High School Jazz Band is going to be performing for us. And then we'll have White Christmas again, because it's so nice to get to do it twice. Okay, and when we got working on this and thinking of how we could convince Spokane on this, it turned out we didn't have to do a lot of convincing. But we have noticed there's a quote from something that happened downtown. I think it might have been the new owners at the Simon's Block, who they've redone their building, and now it's a hotel. It's an upscale hotel, and it's really classy. It's really nice. But they said something about that nostalgia is coming back in style. So well, it kind of is. When we're at the Crosby House Museum, people rarely do we get people that say, "I remember Bing Crosby." Every now and then we get people saying, "I met Bing Crosby," or somehow or another they had a connection, a family connection, that sort of thing. But that's getting to be fewer and fewer. So Bing is becoming less and less of a nostalgic figure and more of a historic figure. And we're really trying to appeal to younger people about how really cool Bing was. So, anyway, now I'm going to turn it over to Lauren. They're clapping because you're coming up. And I'm leaving.
Thank you so much for letting me come tonight. I appreciate the opportunity. My audience is, I write books for children, and I used to teach 5th grade. So my audiences are typically very tiny people, so I'm used to talking to them. And so this is a good time for me, and I appreciate it. But I was asked, like I said, I have other books that I've written for children, and someone asked me, if you were to write a book for children or younger people about Spokane, what would it be? And immediately I said, Bing Crosby. And they said, why? And that I took as a challenge. And so that is how I got roped into all of this, because I started coming around and doing research, and then I heard about Bing Crosby Advocates, and met Dave and Lisa and Polly and Stephanie. And so I thought if I could just have a few minutes, hopefully I won't take too much time, and we can take a little trip down memory lane, because you mentioned already that Bing is a big part of the story of Spokane, and he really is. And so it's fun to kind of talk about that, and talk a little bit about his growing up here in Spokane, which he mentioned quite often throughout his career. And so, like some of the things that Dave said, I will hopefully not repeat too much, but he was born Harry Lillis Crosby on May 3rd, 1903, and that date is kind of disputed sometimes because of various reasons. The first reason was because a few years later, after Bing was born, his younger sister Mary Rose was born, and she was born also on May 3rd. So to give her that special day, he bumped his to May 4th. So he told a lot of people that, and then as he got older, that year got kind of changed a little bit, and got a little later. So yeah, but it was May 3rd, 1903, and he was the middle of 7 children. But when he was 3 years old, they moved to Spokane. And if you see, there's Bing as a little guy. There he is with his mom, and there he is with his younger sister. But when they moved to Spokane, it looked something like that. And it was very much a bustling train city. There's about 100,000 people here when the Crosbys moved here in 1906. This is how Bing described Spokane. And in my book is called Bing Himself, The Story of Bing Crosby, the world's first multimedia star. I called it Bing Himself because I know from being a writer, and I've worked in newspapers as well, it's the best way to know about somebody is to hear what they say, or if you want to know about an experience, what did someone say that was there? And so I always like to find out what Bing said. This is what Bing said about Spokane when he moved there. Spokane has always been a growing community, but in 1906, it was busting out at the seams of a new pair of work pants every week. That's how he described it. So it was just bustling, busy, everybody had something going on. And Bing also said about Spokane that those who live there don't care who you are, what you've been, or what your reputation was before they met you. It's how you handle yourself after you arrive there that counts. So I think he admired that. This is where the family, like they said, they moved over to a house off Sinto, but then in 1911, Mrs. Crosby was able to get some land from a Jesuit nonprofit that was working with Gonzaga University, and she got the land for free with the stipulation that they would build a house on it and live in it, which is just what they did. And so he was about 7 or 8 years old, and in the summer of 1911, they built this house and moved in. A few months later, people always ask when we're at the house, is this the original location? And yes, it is the original location. And a lot of the woodwork and everything inside is original. And it is quite a nice house, I think, for the era. But Mrs. Crosby, Bing's mom, said about the area there in the neighborhood, which they loved. She said nobody was wealthy, but everybody was happy. So that was a kind of a nice way to grow up, I think. And he was nicknamed, he got his name Bing, because he was Harry Lewis Crosby. But he got his name from the Bingville Bugle, which is this little piece of the Spokesman that was in every Sunday, I think it was. And he was obsessed with it and talked about it so much that his neighbor named him Bingo from Bingville, and then it got shortened to Bing, and it stuck. So he was a pretty average guy, but music was a huge part of their life. His dad, it's said that his dad brought home one of the first Edison phonographs in Spokane. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I do know that he spent a good amount of grocery money on it, when maybe that wasn't Bing's mom's preference. But Bing described it as the kind with the big morning glory horn. That's what he said. And he said that it was almost always on and playing records, at first they were the big cylinders, and then they upgraded to this one. But his dad also played the mandolin and I think some other instruments, and his mom played the piano, and they always had singing time on Sunday evenings together as a family around the fireplace or out on the porch. So that was a big part of his life. And there's Bing, of course, front and center of this little group of fellas and girls. He just loved his little neighborhood, and they got themselves into trouble sometimes, which you could expect out of some of the kids. But his mom was kind of a strict mom. She kind of kept tabs on him, but his dad was more like, well, things will work out. You'll see, they'll be fine. And Bing said he kind of took that approach in life. Things will work out. It may not be like what we think, but he had a lot of fond memories of growing up. And one of the things I want to try to do here, since Bing loved technology, I'm going to see if I can do some technology and see if I can. And like I said, we like to hear from Bing. So let's see if we can hear from him now. Let's see if we can hear this, if I get this to work. This is Bing on one of his radio shows, and it would be Thanksgiving, November 25th, 1954, on the Bing Crosby Show. And he's describing Thanksgiving at his home.
succeed. And I haven't had it cost them 20 years in the pies. So Mom not only had several different kinds of pie, she had several different kinds of mince pie. And when it came time to griddle the turkey, I was strictly a drumstick man myself, and Bro Abby always took 10% of the breast meat. She was an Asian even then. Amazing thing too, we could stuff ourselves tighter than a boiled sausage turkey. Still dash right out, play touch ball or anti-eye over or something. I guess the biz people hadn't invented acid digestion yet.
So hopefully you can hear a little bit of that, talking about what Thanksgiving was like. Real quick, I was just going to show you some of the jobs that Bing had and some of the interests that he had. He loved swimming. He actually was had some first place medals in diving, but he was a towel boy in the locker room at Mission Park Pool, and then he was a lifeguard. He was swimming there often. He also did a little bit of swimming in this kind of a situation down at McGoldrick's Lumberyard at the mill pond. Now I had sons, and I just start hyperventilating thinking about them swimming in the middle of all those logs, but that's what he did. And of course he and his friends often would swim au naturel, and the train went by, and so they thought it was really funny that they would shock the people in the train because they're swimming naked. But so Bing loved baseball at a young age, as Dave said, and that he took that through his life, and he loved it. He played junior yard association and varsity teams. First he played third base and then center field. He even was kind of on the semi-pro Spokane Ideal Laundry team. And for a time he also played basketball, but being that he wasn't real tall, he was kind of the bench warmer for a lot of that. And he still also played football as well, which also, I don't think he was a superstar. And he was a caddy at the golf course, and he was often talking members out of their old golf clubs so that he could, have his own set. And that became a lifelong obsession for him. School, he was what like I said, top 5th grade, I know he was the kind that never studied and still got A's. And so that wasn't that great. His friend was, one of his buddies was Francis Corkery, who became the president of GU at one point. And he described Bing as bright but lazy. He was happy-go-lucky, too carefree to be a true leader, ready to go along when the gang raided fruit trees for apples and cherries, and good-natured and always singing. So that is definitely true about Bing. He was often singing, and he loved music. He would do that. They had events going on around town, even for the city, and he did some of those as well, where he would be singing. Everybody in Spokane knew he was coming because this is what he said: I had a constant succession of songs in my head, and I had to whistle or sing to get them out. So, and now, let's see if I can play this. I have another clip. This is from January 9th, 1951. It is the 20th anniversary of Bing's career, and it was a salute to Bing Crosby with a special guest.
Now comes the time to present our surprise guest of the evening. We now hear from Bing's mother, Mrs. H.L. Crosby Sr.
Harry was a whistling and singing ever since he was a little boy. I thought he was pretty good then, too. The song hard to him that time, it's the last thing that I just spoke like to know. The world needs songs, and I'm very happy that my son has one of those to surprise him.
So that was kind of cool. So she said that she was glad that he could be one of those to supply the world with songs, and he was definitely doing that. He also had a bunch of different jobs around town, and I like to tell kids that because they need to know that he was a superstar entertainer, like Dave gave us all those stats, but that he was not opposed to doing things like milking cows, running errands, running the tractor, thinning the orchards, as he put it. He was also a postal worker, a boxing usher, a grocery truck driver, a wood chopper at a resort, a caddy, a topographer at a lumber camp, and an alfalfa farmhand. And then in 1917, he was the property boy at the Auditorium Theater, which is when he saw Al Jolson. And he described that performance later as electric. It's funny because he didn't talk so much about Al as he did about what the audience did when Al Jolson performed. And I think that's what Bing really wanted to do, was he wanted to entertain like that. He wanted to make people happy like that. He said the only time he ever saw a crowd worked up like that for an entertainer was for Judy Garland or Frank Sinatra. And I mean, we know that they did for him too, but he didn't include himself in that. He got started, oh, this is the auditorium. And that's what, I don't know why that is not there anymore, but. So Bing really wanted to get into music, doing that besides just singing a solo once in a while. So he played drums with a band from Gonzaga called the Juicy Seven. But then he joined the musicalators. Let's see, there they are. And he called them more professional. So most of these boys were from North Central High School. And they played all over town. They played at Loretta's Manitou Social Club, the Pekin Cafe, the Auditorium. They played everywhere. And what they would do is go to the Bailey's Music Store, which he said was our jazz classroom. And they would go listen to the records. They would memorize all the beats, the lyrics, the harmonies, all of it, and then they'd go practice it. And then they'd be the first in town to be able to play it. So I'll just play really quick this last little bit of that you kind of started to hear. And this is Bing with just a couple years after the musicalators with Al Rinker, his friend from Gonzaga, or from the musicalators, and they are playing with in a group called the Rhythm Boys. This is what they sounded like. So you get the idea. That's the kind of music that was super popular. And he was really good at those with the harmonies and everything. So, yeah, so it's definitely, there they are. There's Bing with the Rhythm Boys and Al Rinker, his friend there from Spokane. So Bing definitely was a Spokane guy, even though now we know at this point he went on to be in Hollywood. There he is. This is the Model T actually that we're going to use for the reenactment. But they made Bing into a star, but really, he said, except for the exception for a couple of movies, he really only played himself in all the movies, and I think that people really, that resonated with them. He never forgot Spokane, so he talked about it often. We heard him talking on his radio show about his Thanksgiving experience, but he talked often about Spokane, and he never forgot. So there's a few pictures of when he came back, some of the times in 1937 for the alumni weekend, and here's a couple pictures from that Edsel show that he made Gonzaga part of, and then this was when he was dedicating the Crosby Library. He said, this is what he said: "If I am any kind of a success here or in show business, it is the result of the time I spent at Gonzaga in the elocution, the debating, and the dramatic societies. If I am successful, it is because of what I learned here. I am tremendously grateful, and I love this school and the people here." And he said similar things about Spokane, So, and there he is with the microfiche machine in 1968, and he gave to the library. It was the first of any university outside of it was the second in the country, and I think the first in any university. So it was kind of a big deal. And so he never forgot Spokane. And so I was just going to show you, those are my other 2 books that I've written. And that's usually, that you can see me up there, that's usually what I'm doing. But I just had to write this book, and I'm so thankful that someone picked it up. And so I am pleased to show you that this is our book, Bing himself, The Story of Bing Crosby, the world's first multimedia star. And it's now available on Amazon, but it'll actually be available in bookstores everywhere in about a month. And we're going to have, like we said, in October, we're having a special kind of exclusive book launch. It's not the real official one, but it's the one that kind of goes along with all of our events, so I'm excited about that. And I'm really excited to go into classrooms and talk about Bing with kids. That's what I really want to do, because he was so inspiring, and they look up to the people that are influencers that they call, but he really had some qualities that they can learn from and aspire to. So yes, so I appreciate your time. Did you want to come up, and do we have, if anybody has any questions?
I have a question. So when and where is your official book launch?
That hasn't been officially determined yet. It'll be at the end of October. But the one that's for kind of the special one is going to be October 11th, around, I think it's at 10:30 at Bing's house. And it's open to the public.
And I completely forgot one of this is, well, I'll phrase it to you as a question. So, who is our featured guest
Yes,
on the 10th and 11th?
we have,
October?
yes, we are really excited to be able to host Mary Crosby and her family. Mary is Bing's only daughter, and she's number 6 of 7 total, yeah. And she's bringing her son, who is apparently is a Bing Crosby lookalike. I don't know, but that's what we heard. So yeah, we're happy that they're coming and be with us the whole time. Yeah.
So Dean, come back up. So let's give them a big round of applause. We're really proud of our favorite son from Spokane and the accomplishments that he had. And as a tribute to you and as a gift to you, if you're a member of the club, you become part of a very elite club group. There's only about 25% of us that's actually done a presentation here. And with that, you get to have the honor of having an old Joe pen. And old Joe, but for her, we're going to give something that you get as members. Membership in Westerners is twice a year. We produce the Pacific Northwesterner. And the Pacific Northwesterner is by our own editorial committee, Wayne Broyles, Jeff Sims, Dean Keeper. Then Wells was on that committee, Doris Woodward was on that committee. And this Pacific Northwesterner not only goes to you, but it also goes to places like the Princeton and Yale University libraries. We're awfully proud of that.
Gonzaga has it too.
And Gonzaga Library as well. So, I pulled 2 out, an older one and a newer one. And this older one is on the Mullen Road by Randall Johnson. And by the way, Randall Johnson's the man who did the logo for Washington State University. He was also a member here. And the second one is on Baxter General Hospital. The Veterans Administration Hospital was a naval hospital during World War II. All those small houses around there, those were government homes. And so here, you get, as a non-member, you get a couple of our Pacific Northwesterners. You're welcome. We'll give you something more to write about in Spokane. All right, welcome. And next month, this is really important that you be here to join us for next month. We've got 2 big events happening. 3 big events. First event is that we do have a speaker. That's going to be talking about, it's called, I Found a Graveyard in My Own Front Yard. And she's on South Hill. Chip Yaski used to do ghost tours talking about this cemetery on the South Hill. And so there's a lady who lives in the area that's going to talk about that. The second event that's happening is that we are going to have a cowboy poetry contest here in the club. And that's one of the awards that Westerners offers with a prize money. And we've got to have a couple people compete, and Maggie's already set it up that in order to win at Westerners, your poetry has to be published someplace. And she's arranged to get it published as well. So it's a 2-part event. You're going to produce it here, and then it gets published in another location. And we need you to support it and make up some cowboy poetry. And all of us have that ability. Dwayne showed some great examples that he's done in the past on that. And the final thing is, Westerners Spokane Corral is 70 years old in November. And we're going to actually celebrate it in October. And so next month we're going to have a cake on here celebrating our 70th anniversary. And we'll go from there what else we're going to be doing. But 70 years of Spokane Corral, and people enjoying history as yourselves. And we're glad to be doing that to celebrate it for ourselves. And go from there. We might have a short talk on that too. Alrighty. Anything else for the meeting? Well, then thank you for being here tonight and celebrating this night with Bing, and go out and enjoy fall. We've got a few more days that are wonderful. Indian summer here, and go out and enjoy it. Thanks for being here tonight.